Hello and welcome. This is Japan, and we're about to get to Heatwave this weekend for NXT. Honestly, we have two major events with AEW also being on the same day. I know WWE's whole strategy is to counter program it. I feel like it only works as if you make the cards like super crazy, which this one isn't necessarily bad, but I feel like they definitely did sub in some matches that should have possibly not gone here, but they just knew that they would be like a banger of a match. Again, not necessarily upset with that, just more of like maybe it could have been, on a episode of NXT. Like the first one we're going to be talking about the triple threat to determine the number one contender for the North American Women's Champion. Or this is the NXT Championship. Why did I think it was the North American one? Like again, a contenders match is solid. This is a solid triple threat, but like for it to be on the card, it feels like obviously it deserves to have that spotlight, but it is kind of crazy when you're trying to counter program AEW like that. But it's Jada Parker, Kalani Jordan versus Lola Vice. The winner will face JC Jane. It's kind of a weird one because I don't really see any of these three necessarily being the person who like dethrones her. So like it just feels like Jace's title run is gonna just be longer and longer the more it seems, because it just seems like they're building around her, which I guess if it works and people are happy and it's still moving talent around, I don't really necessarily see what's wrong with it. I think here you really couldn't go wrong with any of the women. I'm gonna go with Lola Vice though, because I think she's had the hottest year so far with being a lot used in AAA a lot. I think her being exposed to all those extra eyes down there, I think would also be a good thing for them to do for her, because they also have Worlds Collide coming again, and she probably will have a match there. So I just feel like Lola Vice is the call here. But honestly, if you pick any of the three, it is absolutely easy. I also don't think I mentioned this is the prediction video. Like I think I just jumped right into it because I was excited. Next up, we have Jordan Grace versus Blake Monroe. It is kind of a grudge match. I really can't see Blake Monroe losing her first PLE. Like this is like I know she's tagged and she's had other matches, but it's like this is her first singles match. I think like I don't really see her losing here. I think Blake Monroe cheats and wins, but I think it's Blake Monroe because I mean if Jordan Grace wins, it kind of just ends the rivalry. But if Blake cheats and wins, they could then have another one of these and extend it longer. So I think that's where they're going to eventually go. It's crazy that we have four women's matches on this card, and it's perfect. Or like have matches that have women in it, because the next one we're talking about is the mixed tag match, which was Ethan Page and Chelsea Green versus Tyra May Still and Tavion Heights. Now this is really big for Tyra May Still. Like she literally has been bounced around NXT, Evolve, back to NXT, and then right to a PLE. This is kind of make or break for her. So I think she really needs to like jump in there. And I think they kind of were like wanting to use her as a heel, and it just didn't work out because she definitely seems babyface when Tavion Heights. And I think the two are going to be a good pairing. I mean, I think they work kind of well with their gimmicks together, obviously, and it feels like the move set that they have, I think, works similar. So maybe a little bit of a mixed tag, maybe even a faction coming from that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So I guess we'll see what happens there. Chelsea Green, obviously main roster, former U.S. champion, and then our current North American title holder is Ethan Page. So my feeling is like it should be Ethan Page and Chelsea Green. Now the other two could really get a lot of momentum from winning there, but losing from like a main roster person and a champion is kind of crazy to defeat that. Like that's a lot. Plus, like who eats the pin there? Because there's no way Chelsea Green is going to be eating a pin in NXT. That really would kill her character like dramatically. The only way I think it remotely works out is if she got like attacked by both of her Secret Service people and just had the deck stacked against her on accident, like even if it was just an accidental attack. And then Ethan Page having him get pinned as your champion, especially if he gets pinned by Tavian Heights, would more than likely put Tavian Heights in front of the line. But like that doesn't really look good. But I think I'm gonna go with Chelsea Green and Ethan Page. This card is like a fun card, but it feels semi predictable in ways. And there's a lot of matches, at least that are like are non-title matches, that I think are just like anybody could win, like the triple threat and the Jordan Grace and Monroe one. Like they could go either way with it. It doesn't really matter. It's just there. So I guess it's one of those things. Then we have Hank and Tank versus two members of the Dark State for the tag team titles. I feel like if they really are all in the Dark State, this is the time to do it. This is the person, or like this is the event to have them win. Um, it's either this or nothing. I mean, it really is a big deal because it's like they've been kind of working around and been getting some momentum and getting some good matches. They've been put into these big marquee main events on NXT where they're facing champions and TNA people and stuff. So they're definitely like up there, being like these are the big bad guys, and we want to make them very nasty. And I think that's what you're gonna have to do is have them have those tag team titles. I think that's the only way to really make them solidify as a group. If Hank and Take defeats them, especially in like a clean way, there would be what's the point of Dark State after that, because they've now feuded with a bunch of people and they've not really came out on top like that. I think it would officially put their group into a very bad danger zone of ending if they lose here. I think they definitely need to win the tag team titles because then it refreshes everything for them. Instead of being the people that are completely just hiding in the shadows, they're going to actually have to fight and go out there, and I think that will expose their overall group of either sinking or swimming of being like a solid faction compared to just being the boogeyman. So I'm excited to see what happens here, but I definitely feel like this has to be Hank and Tank losing. I don't see it any other way. If Hank and Tank wins, I think it's kind of over for Dark State, because the only other reveal that the Dark State have is that maybe they're being controlled by one superstar, maybe Trick Williams or whatever. And once that's revealed, then that completely kills that group. So um, at the moment, I guess we're gonna have to see. And then we got two more actual title matches. The cool thing is like we have six solid matches here, and like three title matches is kind of cool. Next up would be Jace versus Marsha Slamovich versus Ash by Elegance in a triple threat for the women's knockout TNA title. Yeah, this is kind of crazy to just see a TNA title defended here and not the NXT women's title. I do feel like at some point separating the two titles is going to be the overall better thing. I think it will help TNA take off a little bit better. I think the number one contender for this title afterwards is Danny Luna. So I don't know if that necessarily helps us with deciding who this is going to be, but I do think it's going to be Ash by Elegance. I think that they've built her up pretty good, and they've been really pushing her to the moon, and she's gotten a lot of independent dates where she's done some decent stuff. I've seen her in the independents, and I've seen her just like overall been working a lot better. Marsha would be great, but I think just going right back to your former champion is kind of not needed here. And I think the opposite of like keeping it on Jace, I just don't really see the point of it, because it's just eventually not going to work out. I think the shock value of her getting it has eventually worn off, and they kind of just settled in that she has it. So at this point, there's not much else she can do other than just kind of relinquish it, because the thing is like she's already faced a lot of the knockouts over there, and a lot of times it's not really like they set up the feud so slowly because she's setting up feuds also in NXT that like there's just not much that she can do. Plus, having a triple threat, there could be a whole other thing of like somebody taking the pin and it's not her. So I guess we'll see. I feel like Ash is my pick. I really like how most of this is. It's just like I don't think there's like a strong indication on a lot of these. Um, um, so I'm assuming from everything that I can tell, Ash would be the best pick. Next up, we have Javon Evans versus Obafemi. This is the match I'm most excited for. I mean, we've seen it in different ways, of like the triple threat with Trick and other matches that they've had against each other. And this is, I think, the match that is the one to watch. I really do think this is the time to pull the trigger on Javon Evans. I think everything that he had struggled with the first go around, I think he's fixed. Better in ring work, which he was already phenomenal on the move set. He just obviously the basics sometimes could fall flat, and then his mic work has gone outrageously better. So I think if you add all of that together, I think he's ready to win the title. Plus, I really think Obafemi has nothing else he can do in NXT, because once he defeats him again, there's not really anybody out there that's sitting there like a number one contender that can really go after him. Maybe Ricky Saints, but like I don't. I think that would probably be your next guy up. But like I'm really thinking about it, and I'm like, I think Ricky Saints versus Javon Evans would be way better of a match. And I think a lot of the other people, with just being able to refresh it and have Javon Evans have fresh feuds against pretty much everybody except for maybe Trick Williams and Ethan Page, he hasn't really, clash with other people in that type of way that he could be completely fresh and be in there. So I think that is the person, and I'm going with Javon Evans. But yeah, this weekend is Heatwave, so tell me what you guys think below and what matches you're excited for and what your predictions are, and we'll talk about it. Till next time, this has been Japan. Bye, guys.